Have you ever noticed how one negative thought can quietly enter your mind and slowly take control of your entire day? You may start your day feeling normal, but that single thought keeps repeating in the background without asking for permission. By the end of the day, you feel mentally drained and emotionally heavy, even though nothing clearly went wrong. In this audiobook, we will understand negative thoughts deeply and learn how to stop them from controlling your mind while building inner strength and clarity. Chapter 1. Understanding Negative Thoughts. Negative thoughts rarely appear suddenly or forcefully. They usually enter the mind in a calm and familiar way. They sound like your own inner voice, which makes them feel trustworthy and difficult to question. Because of this, many people believe these thoughts without realizing they are only learned mental habits. Most negative thoughts are connected to fear, past experiences, or unresolved emotional moments stored quietly in the mind. During stress, silence, or uncertainty, the brain brings these thoughts back as a form of protection. Even when there is no real danger, the mind reacts as if something is wrong. Over time, these thoughts become automatic and begin repeating without effort. You may start believing ideas like you are not good enough, not capable enough, or always behind others. When repeated daily, these thoughts slowly shape your self-image and confidence. It is important to understand that negative thinking does not mean you are weak or broken. It simply means your mind learned certain patterns during difficult moments in the past. Now, those same patterns may be limiting your peace and emotional balance. At this stage, there is no need to fight your thoughts or force positivity into your mind. The first step is awareness, noticing your thoughts without reacting to them immediately. This calm awareness becomes the base for building a stronger and more stable mind. As you move through daily life, negative thoughts repeat because the mind prefers familiarity over truth. The brain chooses known patterns because they feel safe, even when those patterns create stress or self-doubt. This is why the same worries return again and again without needing any effort from you. Another reason negative thoughts feel so powerful is their emotional weight. When a thought carries fear, regret, or shame, the mind automatically gives it more attention. Emotion makes the thought feel urgent and important, even if it is not useful or accurate. Silence often strengthens negative thinking without you realizing it. When distractions fade, the mind turns inward and replays unfinished emotional loops. This is why negative thoughts often appear late at night, during rest, or in moments of loneliness. It is important to understand that a thought is not a command you must follow. A thought can exist in your mind without needing your agreement or action. Learning this slowly creates distance between you and your automatic mental reactions. Many people try to stop negative thoughts by arguing with them or forcing positive thinking. This usually creates more resistance and inner tension. The mind does not respond well to pressure, especially when it is already stressed. A calmer approach is simple observation. When a negative thought appears, notice it gently and label it as a thought, not a fact. This small mental pause weakens the emotional grip of the thought. With practice, you begin to respond instead of react. You stop feeding the thought with fear or overthinking. Over time, this changes how long a negative thought stays in your mind. Awareness does not mean becoming passive or careless. It means choosing where to place your attention instead of letting the mind decide automatically. This choice slowly restores a sense of control and emotional balance. As Chapter 1 comes to a close, remember that understanding your thoughts is the first form of inner strength. You are not here to judge yourself, but to observe with patience and clarity. This awareness prepares your mind for deeper change and lasting stability. Chapter 2. Why negative thoughts feel so real. Negative thoughts feel real because the mind does not clearly separate imagination from reality. When a thought repeats often, the brain begins to treat it as something important that deserves attention. Over time, repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity creates belief. Another reason these thoughts feel convincing is because they are connected to emotions. The brain remembers feelings more strongly than facts, especially emotional pain or fear. When a thought carries emotion, it feels deeper, heavier, and more personal. Your past experiences also shape how real a thought feels. If you have failed, been judged, or felt rejected before, the mind stores that memory as a warning. Later, similar situations trigger the same thoughts, even if the current moment is completely different. The mind often fills gaps with assumptions. When you do not have clear information, it creates stories to protect you from uncertainty. These stories are rarely positive, because the brain is designed to prepare for danger, not happiness. Negative thoughts also gain strength through overthinking. When you replay the same idea again and again, the mind assumes it must be important. Attention acts like fuel, keeping the thought alive longer than necessary. It is important to realize that feeling real does not mean being true. A thought can feel intense and still be inaccurate. Understanding this gently weakens the authority those thoughts hold over you. Most people do not question their thoughts because questioning feels uncomfortable. It feels safer to believe the thought than to sit with uncertainty. But this comfort is temporary and often leads to long-term mental stress. At this stage, the goal is not to change the thought, but to understand why it feels so convincing. Awareness brings space between you and your mental patterns. This space is where strength and clarity begin to grow. Negative thoughts also feel real because the mind constantly looks for evidence to support them. Once a thought appears, the brain begins scanning your memories and surroundings to prove it right. Even small or unrelated moments are collected as proof, while positive or neutral experiences are quietly ignored. This selective attention strengthens the thought over time. When the mind keeps noticing only what matches the negative belief, it starts feeling logical and reasonable. Slowly, the thought turns into a story, and that story feels like your reality. Another reason these thoughts feel powerful is because they often repeat during emotionally vulnerable moments. When you are tired, stressed, lonely, or overwhelmed, your mental defenses are lower. In these moments, thoughts enter more easily and settle more deeply. Negative thoughts also borrow authority from your inner voice. Because they sound like your own thinking, they feel personal and intimate. This makes it harder to question them, as doubting the thought feels like doubting yourself. Over time, the mind confuses familiarity with truth. A thought repeated for years feels trustworthy simply because it is known. This is why old negative beliefs often feel stronger than new positive ones. It is important to remember that the mind's job is not happiness, but survival. The brain exaggerates risk and minimizes safety to keep you alert. This survival-based thinking may have helped in the past, but it creates unnecessary stress in daily life now. Understanding this removes self-blame. You are not weak for having negative thoughts, and you are not failing because they return. You are simply experiencing a mind that learned to protect itself in an outdated way. At this point, strength comes from slowing down your reactions. When a thought appears, pause before believing it or responding emotionally. This pause interrupts the automatic cycle and creates mental breathing space. With repeated pauses, the mind slowly learns a new pattern. Thoughts still appear, but they lose urgency and emotional charge. You begin to see them as passing mental events instead of permanent truths. As Chapter 2 comes to an end, remember that clarity begins with understanding, not control. You are not here to eliminate thoughts, but to change your relationship with them. This shift quietly builds a stronger, steadier, and more resilient mind. Chapter 3. How negative thoughts affect your daily life. Negative thoughts do not stay limited to the mind. They slowly spread into your daily life without making noise. They influence how you feel when you wake up, how you react during the day, and how you rest at night. Even simple routines begin to feel mentally heavy when negative thinking becomes constant. Over time, life feels tiring, even when nothing physically demanding is happening. One of the first areas affected by negative thoughts is emotional balance. You may feel irritated, anxious, or low without any clear external reason. These emotional shifts often feel small at first, so they are easy to ignore. Slowly, however, they begin to shape how you respond to people and situations. Negative thinking also reduces your ability to focus. When the mind is busy repeating worries or doubts, staying present becomes difficult. Tasks that once felt simple start requiring more effort and energy. This mental distraction creates frustration and inner pressure. Decision-making becomes harder under the influence of negative thoughts. Small choices begin to feel exhausting, while bigger decisions feel overwhelming. The fear of making mistakes grows stronger with repetition. As a result, many people start avoiding decisions altogether. Over time, negative thoughts quietly weaken self-confidence. You may begin doubting your abilities or worth without clear evidence. This self-doubt develops gradually and feels natural, which makes it harder to challenge. Eventually, it limits how freely you express yourself and take action. The body is also affected by constant negative thinking. Mental stress creates physical tension, especially in the shoulders and chest. Even after rest, the body may feel tired because the mind never fully relaxes. This connection between mind and body often goes unnoticed. Relationships are influenced as well when negative thoughts dominate the mind. Assumptions replace clarity, and inner criticism affects communication. You may withdraw emotionally or react more strongly than needed. These changes happen unintentionally and slowly create distance. Negative thinking also changes how you see reality. Positive moments feel smaller, while negative moments feel stronger. The mind becomes trained to notice problems instead of balance. This distorted perception makes life feel repetitive. It is important to understand that these effects develop gradually. Negative thoughts shape daily life through repetition and habit, not sudden change. Because the process is slow, many people notice it only when exhaustion sets in. Awareness is the first step toward breaking this cycle. As Chapter 3 continues, remember that noticing these effects is a sign of strength. You are becoming aware of patterns that once operated silently. This awareness allows you to respond instead of remaining stuck. Real change starts with understanding how deeply thoughts influence daily life. Negative thoughts also change the way you experience time during the day. Calm moments feel short, while stressful moments feel longer and heavier than they should. Even when nothing urgent is happening, the mind feels busy and slightly rushed. This creates a quiet pressure, as if you are always behind something you cannot clearly see. Your motivation is slowly affected in a very subtle way. When the mind keeps expecting problems or disappointment, effort starts feeling pointless. You may delay things not because you are lazy, but because your energy feels low. Over time, even simple actions begin to require extra mental effort. Rest is another area where negative thoughts quietly interfere. At night, the body lies down, but the mind stays awake, replaying thoughts from the day. Old conversations, small mistakes, and imagined worries return without invitation. Because of this, sleep feels lighter and less refreshing. Your inner voice also begins to change its tone. Instead of sounding supportive, it becomes more critical and impatient. You may notice yourself speaking harshly inside your own mind. This inner pressure affects how safe and calm you feel within yourself. Daily stress feels stronger when negative thinking becomes a habit. Small problems feel bigger than they really are in the moment. The mind reacts quickly instead of pausing and responding calmly. This constant reaction mode keeps emotional tension alive. Negative thoughts also reduce emotional recovery. When something goes wrong, the mind holds on to it longer than necessary. Letting go becomes difficult because the thought keeps returning. This makes emotional exhaustion build slowly over time. With constant repetition, the mind starts losing flexibility. You react in the same way again and again, even when situations change. New perspectives feel uncomfortable or unrealistic at first. This limits growth and emotional openness. It is important to understand that none of this means you are weak. It only shows how powerful repeated thinking patterns can be. The mind learns whatever it practices most. Seeing this clearly brings understanding instead of self-blame. When you become aware of these effects, something begins to shift naturally. You start noticing patterns instead of being trapped inside them. This awareness creates small moments of choice. Those moments slowly weaken the old cycle. As Chapter 3 comes to a close, remember that impact does not mean permanence. The same mind that learned negative habits can also learn calmer ones. Change begins with gentle understanding, not pressure. This awareness prepares you for the next step forward. Chapter 4. Breaking the cycle of negative thinking. Negative thoughts continue mainly because they follow familiar cycles. A thought appears, the mind reacts, emotions rise, and the same pattern repeats again later. Over time, this cycle becomes so normal that you stop noticing it. Breaking this cycle begins with simply seeing it clearly. The mind does not break habits through force. When you try to push thoughts away, they often return with more intensity. Real change starts when you allow the thought to exist without feeding it with fear or attention. This calm, non-reaction slowly weakens the cycle. One helpful step is slowing down your response. When a negative thought appears, pause before reacting emotionally. This pause may feel uncomfortable at first, but it creates space. In that space, the thought loses some of its power. Awareness works best when it is gentle. You do not need to analyze every thought or judge yourself for having it. Simply noticing the pattern is enough in the beginning. The mind begins learning through observation, not pressure. Another important part of breaking the cycle is understanding triggers. Certain situations, people, or emotions quietly activate old thinking patterns. When you recognize these triggers, thoughts become less surprising. This reduces their emotional impact. Routine also plays a role in strengthening or weakening negative thinking. When life feels rushed and unbalanced, the mind seeks control through thoughts. Simple daily structure helps the mind feel safer. Safety reduces the need for constant mental noise. Breathing and body awareness are powerful but often ignored tools. When the body relaxes, the mind naturally follows. Even a few calm breaths can interrupt a negative thought loop. The body becomes an anchor to the present moment. Consistency matters more than intensity in this process. Small moments of awareness practiced daily create long-term change. You do not need perfect control over your mind. You only need gentle repetition. As Chapter 4 begins, remember that breaking negative cycles is a skill, not a talent. Skills improve with patience and understanding. Each pause, each moment of awareness weakens the old pattern slightly. Over time, these small changes build real mental strength. Negative thinking does not disappear suddenly. It slowly weakens through repeated awareness and patience. Each time a negative thought appears and you notice it without reacting, the old cycle loses a small amount of strength. This process feels quiet and almost invisible in the beginning, which is why many people underestimate it. Over time, however, these small moments of awareness combine and create meaningful inner change. Patience is essential during this phase because the mind has followed the same patterns for years. Old thoughts may return again and again, even after moments of calm and clarity. This does not mean you are failing or undoing progress. It simply shows that the habit is still dissolving layer by layer. One common mistake is measuring progress too quickly or too harshly. Some days you will feel calm, present, and mentally light, while other days negativity may return strongly. Progress does not mean eliminating negative thoughts completely. Progress means reacting with less fear, less tension, and less emotional attachment over time. The way you speak to yourself during this process deeply affects the outcome. Harsh inner language strengthens the same patterns you are trying to soften. A calm, understanding inner voice creates emotional safety inside the mind. This sense of safety allows change to happen naturally instead of through force. Daily awareness works best when it becomes part of normal life rather than a special practice. You do not need silence, isolation, or perfect conditions to observe your thoughts. Even noticing your thinking while walking, eating, or resting is enough. These ordinary moments gently train the mind to stay present. Letting go is a skill that develops gradually with repeated experience. You are not pushing thoughts away or trying to control them. You are allowing them to pass without feeding them attention or emotion. With time, the mind learns that calm is safer than control. Negative thoughts also lose power when you stop identifying with them. A thought is not a reflection of who you are or what your future holds. It is simply a mental event passing through awareness. Seeing this clearly creates emotional distance and inner freedom. As this chapter comes to a close, remember that breaking negative cycles requires kindness toward yourself. You are not fixing something broken. You are learning a deeply human skill. Each moment of awareness builds quiet, stable strength. This strength prepares your mind for deeper clarity, balance, and confidence ahead. Chapter 5. Learning to respond instead of react. Most negative thoughts gain power because they trigger automatic reactions inside the mind. A thought appears, emotion rises, and the body responds before you even realize what happened. This reaction happens so fast that it feels uncontrollable. Learning to respond instead of react begins with slowing this process down. Reaction is driven by habit, not awareness. The mind reacts based on past experiences, fears, and learned patterns. In contrast, response comes from the present moment. Response gives you a small but powerful choice. When a negative thought appears, the first step is noticing the physical reaction. You may feel tension in the chest, tightness in the stomach, or pressure in the head. These sensations are signals, not problems. They tell you the mind is reacting automatically. Pausing for a moment creates space between thought and action. This pause does not need to be long or dramatic. Even a few seconds of awareness can interrupt the old pattern. In that pause, reaction begins to lose its grip. Responding does not mean suppressing emotion. It means allowing the emotion to exist without letting it control your behavior. You acknowledge what you feel without judging yourself for it. This gentle acceptance reduces inner conflict. Breathing plays an important role in learning to respond calmly. A slow, natural breath signals safety to the nervous system. As the body relaxes, the mind follows naturally. This connection helps reduce emotional intensity. With practice, response becomes easier and more natural. You stop feeling pushed around by every thought that appears. Situations that once triggered strong reactions begin to feel manageable. Confidence grows quietly through these moments. Responding also changes how you see yourself. You begin to trust your ability to stay steady during discomfort. This trust builds inner strength over time. Strength here is calm, not forceful. It is important to remember that reacting is not a failure. Reaction is simply a learned pattern from the past. Each time you notice a reaction without judging it, you weaken its hold. Awareness itself becomes progress. As Chapter 5 begins, remember that learning to respond is a gradual process. You are not aiming for perfection or emotional control. You are learning presence, patience, and clarity. These qualities slowly shape a stronger and calmer mind. Responding instead of reacting becomes easier when you stop expecting instant control over your mind. The goal is not to remain calm all the time, but to notice when you lose calm. This shift removes pressure and makes the process more natural. Calm grows through understanding, not force. Many people react strongly because they believe every thought requires an answer. The mind jumps into problem-solving mode, even when no solution is needed. Learning to pause helps you see that some thoughts only need space, not action. This realization reduces unnecessary mental effort. When you respond, you give yourself time to choose your behavior. Instead of being pushed by emotion, you gently guide yourself forward. This guidance feels quiet, not dramatic or powerful. Over time, this quiet control builds inner confidence. Responding also changes how long emotions stay in your body. Reactions keep emotions active by feeding them attention. A calm response allows emotions to rise and fall naturally. This shortens their intensity without suppression. You may notice that responding feels uncomfortable at first. The mind is used to immediate reaction, so slowing down feels unfamiliar. Discomfort does not mean something is wrong. It simply means you are learning a new pattern. It is helpful to practice responding during small moments. Minor irritations, delays, or misunderstandings are good opportunities. You do not need major emotional events to learn this skill. Small moments create strong foundations. Over time, responding reshapes your relationship with stress. Stressful situations still appear, but they no longer define your inner state. You feel more grounded even when life feels uncertain. This steadiness comes from awareness, not avoidance. Responding also improves communication with others. When you are less reactive, your words become clearer and calmer. Misunderstandings reduce because emotions are not leading the conversation. This creates healthier connections naturally. It is important to forgive yourself when you react instead of respond. Growth does not move in a straight line. Each reaction noticed with awareness is still progress. Kindness toward yourself keeps the process alive. As Chapter 5 comes to an end, remember that responding is a practice you carry into daily life. You are training your mind to pause, feel, and choose. This practice builds quiet strength and emotional clarity. From this place, a stronger mind continues to grow. Chapter 6. Creating a calm inner environment. A stronger mind is not created by controlling every thought, but by creating an inner environment where calm feels natural. When the inner space feels safe, thoughts lose their urgency and emotional charge. Calm does not mean silence, it means balance and stability inside the mind. This balance allows you to face thoughts without feeling overwhelmed by them. Your inner environment is shaped by how you respond to your own experiences. When you react with harsh judgment, the mind stays tense and defensive. When you respond with understanding, the mind slowly relaxes. This shift changes how thoughts behave over time. Many people believe calm comes from removing problems. In reality, calm comes from changing your relationship with those problems. The mind feels safer when it knows it will not be attacked from within. This inner safety reduces mental noise naturally. Self-awareness plays a key role in creating this calm space. Noticing how you speak to yourself reveals the tone of your inner environment. A critical inner voice creates pressure and restlessness. A gentle inner voice creates steadiness and trust. Your body also contributes to your mental environment. When the body feels tense, the mind mirrors that tension. Simple actions like relaxing the shoulders or slowing the breath help signal safety. This physical calm supports mental clarity. Consistency matters more than intensity when building inner calm. You do not need long sessions of focus or effort. Small moments of awareness practiced regularly reshape the mind. These moments slowly become your new mental baseline. Negative thoughts feel less threatening in a calm inner environment. They may still appear, but they do not demand immediate attention. You begin to see them as passing experiences rather than personal threats. This perspective brings emotional relief. Creating calm also improves emotional resilience. Difficult emotions pass more smoothly when the inner space is steady. You recover faster because you are not fighting what you feel. Acceptance allows emotions to move through naturally. Over time, this calm environment becomes familiar. The mind begins returning to balance more easily after stress. You trust yourself to handle discomfort without panic. This trust strengthens inner confidence quietly. As Chapter 6 begins, remember that calm is something you build, not something you wait for. Each kind response toward yourself shapes your inner space. This space becomes the foundation of a stronger, clearer mind. From here, deeper mental strength can grow naturally. Creating a calm inner environment also means learning how to protect it gently and consistently. Not every thought deserves deep attention, emotional investment, or immediate response. Some thoughts are simply background noise created by a tired, stressed, or overstimulated mind. Learning when to engage and when to let go preserves inner balance and mental clarity. Your daily mental inputs strongly influence how calm your inner space feels. Constant exposure to negativity, noise, comparison, or unnecessary information keeps the mind alert and unsettled. When you reduce unnecessary mental stimulation, the mind naturally begins to soften. Calm grows more easily in an environment that feels mentally lighter and less crowded. Emotional boundaries are another important part of maintaining inner calm. You can care about situations and people without carrying their emotional weight all the time. This does not make you cold, distant, or uncaring in any way. Instead, it allows you to stay emotionally present without feeling constantly drained. Your inner environment also responds to how you handle mistakes and setbacks. When mistakes are met with harsh self-criticism, tension builds quickly and confidence weakens. When mistakes are met with understanding, the mind stays open and flexible. This approach supports learning, growth, and emotional safety instead of fear. Rest plays a much larger role in calmness than most people realize. A tired or overworked mind struggles to stay balanced and emotionally steady. Proper rest allows thoughts to slow down and emotions to settle naturally. Calm becomes easier when the mind feels supported instead of pushed. The way you end your day also shapes your inner environment deeply. Carrying unresolved thoughts into rest keeps the mind active even during sleep. Gently releasing the day before sleeping helps the nervous system relax. This simple habit allows the mind to reset more naturally. Over time, a calm inner environment becomes familiar and comforting. The mind begins returning to this state more quickly after stress or emotional disturbance. You no longer feel lost inside emotional waves or mental noise. Stability slowly becomes your default response. This calm does not remove challenges from life or make problems disappear. Challenges still appear, but they no longer shake your inner foundation. You feel more capable of facing uncertainty without panic or inner resistance. This quiet strength grows steadily with awareness. As Chapter 6 comes to an end, remember that calm is something you nurture daily through small choices. Every gentle response toward yourself shapes your inner world. This inner environment supports clarity, resilience, and emotional confidence. From this place, the mind feels stronger, safer, and more trustworthy. Chapter 7. Strengthening your mind through daily awareness. A stronger mind is not built in rare moments of motivation, but through small moments of awareness practiced daily. These moments may seem ordinary, yet they quietly shape how you experience life. Awareness brings you back to the present, instead of letting the mind drift into worry. Over time, this presence becomes a stable inner habit. Daily awareness means noticing what is happening inside you without immediately trying to change it. You observe thoughts, emotions, and reactions as they arise during the day. This observation creates space between you and your mental patterns. In that space, clarity begins to grow naturally. Many people believe awareness requires silence or deep focus. In reality, awareness works best during everyday activities. You can practice it while walking, working, eating, or resting. Ordinary moments become opportunities for mental strengthening. Awareness also softens the mind's urgency. When you notice a thought without reacting, it loses some of its emotional charge. The mind no longer feels pushed to fix or escape everything. This creates a sense of inner steadiness. Daily awareness improves emotional regulation over time. Emotions still arise, but they pass more smoothly. You feel less overwhelmed because you are not resisting what you feel. Acceptance reduces inner struggle. This practice also strengthens patience. Instead of demanding quick results, you allow growth to happen gradually. Patience brings calm confidence rather than frustration. The mind learns that it does not need to rush. Awareness deepens your understanding of personal triggers. You begin noticing which situations activate stress or negativity. This understanding reduces surprise and emotional shock. Preparedness replaces reactivity. Another benefit of daily awareness is improved self-trust. You begin trusting your ability to handle discomfort. This trust grows quietly through repeated experience. Confidence becomes calm rather than forceful. Over time, awareness reshapes your inner dialogue. The mind becomes less critical and more supportive. Thoughts feel softer and less absolute. This change creates emotional safety. As Chapter 7 begins, remember that awareness is not about perfection. It is about returning gently to the present again and again. Each return strengthens the mind slightly. These small returns build lasting mental strength. Daily awareness becomes more powerful when it is practiced without expectations or pressure. You are not trying to feel calm all the time, nor are you trying to eliminate discomfort completely. Some days awareness feels easy and natural, while other days it feels effortful and distant. Both experiences are part of the same growth process and should be accepted equally. When awareness is practiced gently, the mind slowly stops resisting itself. Resistance creates inner tension, while acceptance creates space and softness. In that space, thoughts begin to settle on their own without force. Calm becomes a natural outcome rather than a goal you chase. One important aspect of awareness is learning to stay with discomfort for a short time. Discomfort often carries useful information about unmet needs or emotional boundaries. When you do not escape it immediately, understanding begins to deepen. This reduces fear and quietly increases emotional strength. Awareness also teaches you to notice improvement without attachment. You may observe calmer reactions or faster recovery from stress over time. Instead of holding tightly to these moments, you allow them to come and go. This non-attachment keeps the mind flexible and balanced. Over time, daily awareness changes how challenges are experienced internally. Difficult situations still arise, but they no longer feel overwhelming or consuming. The mind feels more spacious during moments of pressure and uncertainty. This spaciousness allows wiser and calmer responses. Awareness also improves mental clarity in subtle ways. Thoughts become easier to observe and less confusing or tangled. Decision-making feels lighter because the mind is not crowded with emotional noise. Clarity brings quiet confidence rather than forceful certainty. Another important shift happens in how you relate to yourself. You stop seeing the mind as an enemy that needs fixing or controlling. Instead, you begin seeing it as something that needs guidance, patience, and care. This change strengthens self-compassion and inner trust. With consistent awareness, emotional patterns become familiar rather than frightening. Familiarity reduces panic and unnecessary struggle. You begin trusting your ability to stay present, even when emotions rise. This trust builds deep inner stability. Awareness does not remove uncertainty from life or guarantee comfort. It simply helps you remain steady within uncertainty instead of fighting it. You learn that clarity can exist even without complete answers. This realization brings emotional freedom and mental balance. As Chapter 7 comes to an end, remember that daily awareness is a lifelong skill, not a short-term technique. It grows stronger through patience, repetition, and kindness toward yourself. Each mindful moment adds quiet strength to the mind. This strength prepares you for deeper emotional balance and long-term mental resilience. Chapter 8. Letting go of mental resistance. A large part of mental suffering comes from resistance rather than the situation itself. Resistance means fighting what you are already experiencing inside. When the mind argues with reality, tension increases instead of decreasing. Letting go of resistance is the beginning of inner ease. Mental resistance often appears as thoughts like, "This should not be happening," or "I should feel different." These thoughts add an extra layer of struggle to the moment. The situation may be difficult, but resistance makes it heavier. Understanding this changes how you experience discomfort. Letting go does not mean giving up or becoming passive. It means accepting what is present without adding mental conflict. Acceptance creates space where the mind can relax slightly. In that space, clarity begins to return. Resistance also consumes a lot of emotional energy. When the mind keeps fighting internally, exhaustion builds quietly. This is why some days feel draining even without much activity. Reducing resistance restores mental energy naturally. Many people fear that acceptance will make them weak. In reality, acceptance allows strength to emerge without tension. When you stop fighting yourself, your responses become clearer. Calm strength replaces forced control. Letting go starts with noticing resistance gently. You observe when the mind tightens or argues internally. There is no need to judge or correct it immediately. Awareness alone begins to soften resistance. Breathing helps greatly during moments of resistance. A slow breath signals safety to the nervous system. As the body relaxes, the mind follows naturally. This physical shift supports emotional release. Resistance often comes from fear of losing control. The mind believes control equals safety. Learning to release resistance shows the mind that safety can exist without control. This realization reduces anxiety. Over time, letting go becomes easier with practice. You stop reacting sharply to discomfort. Situations still arise, but they no longer dominate your inner state. This creates emotional flexibility. As Chapter 8 begins, remember that letting go is not something you force. It happens through understanding, patience, and awareness. Each moment of reduced resistance brings inner relief. This relief strengthens the mind quietly and steadily. Letting go of resistance becomes easier when you begin noticing how often the mind tries to control outcomes. The mind constantly looks for certainty, reassurance, and predictable results in order to feel safe. When life does not match these expectations, inner tension quietly appears. Recognizing this pattern helps you soften your grip on control without forcing change. Resistance is often strongest around emotions you do not like feeling. Sadness, fear, uncertainty, or vulnerability trigger the urge to push emotions away. Pushing emotions creates inner conflict instead of relief. Allowing emotions to exist briefly reduces their intensity and emotional weight. Letting go does not require understanding everything you feel in the moment. You do not need clear answers or explanations for every emotion that arises. Sometimes allowing confusion is more calming than forcing clarity. This permission helps the mind relax instead of tightening. The body responds quickly when resistance begins to fade. Muscles loosen, breathing becomes deeper, and the nervous system settles naturally. This physical shift sends a signal of safety to the brain. Mental calm often follows without effort. One helpful practice is gently naming what you are resisting. Simply noticing and saying, "I am resisting this moment," creates awareness. Awareness interrupts the automatic struggle inside the mind. The mind feels less trapped when resistance is acknowledged rather than fought. Letting go also improves emotional honesty with yourself. Instead of pretending to feel fine, you allow yourself to feel what is actually present. This honesty creates inner alignment and emotional clarity. Alignment reduces mental friction and exhaustion. Over time, reduced resistance changes how challenges are experienced. Difficult situations still arise, but they feel more manageable and less threatening. The mind responds with steadiness instead of internal struggle. This response feels grounded and calm. Letting go also strengthens trust in yourself. You begin trusting your ability to stay present during discomfort. This trust reduces fear of future challenges. Confidence grows quietly through repeated experience. Resistance weakens when the mind learns that discomfort is temporary. Feelings rise, remain for a while, and then naturally pass. Seeing this pattern again and again builds emotional resilience. The mind stops panicking during difficult moments. As Chapter 8 comes to an end, remember that letting go is a gradual learning process. Each moment of reduced resistance brings relief, space, and clarity. You are not losing control, you are gaining inner freedom. This freedom supports a stronger, calmer, and more balanced mind. Chapter 9. Building Emotional Resilience from Within. Emotional resilience is not about avoiding difficult feelings, but about learning how to stay steady while they pass. A resilient mind does not panic when emotions rise unexpectedly. Instead, it understands that emotions are temporary experiences, not permanent states. This understanding creates inner stability during uncertainty. Resilience begins with allowing emotions to exist without labeling them as good or bad. When emotions are judged, resistance increases and balance is lost. When emotions are allowed, the mind stays open and flexible. This flexibility reduces emotional overwhelm. Many people confuse resilience with emotional toughness. True resilience is gentle rather than rigid. It allows softness without collapsing under pressure. This balance makes strength sustainable. Emotional resilience grows when you stop personalizing every feeling. Feeling low does not mean you are failing. Feeling anxious does not mean something terrible is about to happen. These emotions are signals, not identities. One key element of resilience is recovery time. Resilient minds recover faster after emotional stress. They do not stay stuck replaying the same experience repeatedly. Letting emotions pass naturally shortens their impact. Resilience also improves how you face uncertainty. When outcomes are unclear, the mind remains grounded instead of restless. You learn to stay present even without clear answers. This reduces fear-driven thinking. Daily experiences play a major role in building resilience. Small moments of stress handled calmly train the mind. Over time, these moments add up to emotional strength. Growth happens quietly through repetition. Self-trust is strengthened as resilience grows. You begin trusting your ability to handle emotional discomfort. This trust reduces avoidance and fear. Confidence develops without force. Resilience also supports healthier emotional boundaries. You stop absorbing every emotional reaction around you. This does not reduce empathy, but protects inner balance. Boundaries preserve mental energy. Over time, emotional resilience becomes a natural state. Challenges still appear, but they no longer shake your inner foundation. You respond with steadiness rather than urgency. Life feels more manageable from within. As Chapter 9 begins, remember that resilience is something you practice, not something you are born with. Each emotional experience handled with awareness strengthens the mind. You are learning to remain stable without becoming closed. This balance prepares you for deeper inner strength ahead. Emotional resilience becomes stronger when you stop trying to control how you should feel in every moment. Many people create unnecessary stress by expecting themselves to feel calm, confident, or positive all the time. When emotions do not match these expectations, frustration and self-judgment begin quietly. Letting emotions exist without pressure allows balance to return naturally. Resilient minds understand that emotional waves rise and fall on their own. They do not rush to fix, analyze, or escape every uncomfortable feeling. Staying present with emotion allows it to move through the system without resistance. This reduces emotional buildup over time and prevents inner exhaustion. Another important part of resilience is learning to slow down during emotional intensity. When emotions rise, the mind often demands quick answers or immediate solutions. Slowing your pace helps the nervous system feel safer. Calm responses become possible when urgency fades. Resilience also grows through honest self-awareness without blame. You begin recognizing emotional patterns without turning them into personal failures. This honesty creates clarity instead of confusion. Clarity makes emotional experiences easier to navigate. Daily challenges slowly become training grounds for emotional strength. Small disappointments, delays, or misunderstandings offer chances to practice steadiness. Handling these moments with awareness builds confidence quietly. Over time, resilience becomes automatic rather than forced. Emotional resilience changes how you relate to setbacks. Instead of seeing setbacks as proof of weakness, you see them as temporary disruptions. This perspective prevents emotional spirals from taking over. Recovery becomes faster and more gentle. The ability to self-soothe improves as resilience develops. You learn how to calm yourself without relying on distraction, avoidance, or suppression. This skill creates inner security and emotional safety. Security reduces reactivity during stress. Resilient minds also learn to hold emotions with compassion. Instead of pushing feelings away, you allow them space and understanding. Compassion softens emotional intensity without denying it. This softness strengthens emotional endurance. Over time, resilience reshapes how you see yourself emotionally. You stop defining your identity by temporary feelings or moods. Emotions become experiences, not labels. This shift creates inner freedom. As Chapter 9 comes to an end, remember that emotional resilience is built through lived experience, not theory. Each emotional moment handled with awareness adds quiet strength. You are learning to remain open without becoming overwhelmed. This resilience supports a calm, steady, and stronger mind. Chapter 10. Developing long-term mental strength. Long-term mental strength is not built through intense effort or constant self-control, but through steady inner habits practiced over time. It develops quietly as you respond to life with awareness instead of force or resistance. Strong minds are not free from difficulty, but they are less shaken by it internally. This steadiness allows clarity to remain present even during pressure and uncertainty. Mental strength grows when you stop fighting your inner experiences. Fighting thoughts and emotions drains energy and creates unnecessary inner resistance. When experiences are allowed to move through naturally, the mind conserves strength. This preserved strength becomes available when you truly need it. Consistency plays a major role in building lasting mental strength. Small daily responses shape the mind more deeply than rare moments of motivation. Each calm response trains the nervous system to remain balanced and steady. Over time, this balance becomes familiar and natural. Strong minds are flexible rather than rigid in their thinking. They adjust to change without breaking internally or collapsing emotionally. Flexibility allows learning instead of defensiveness. This openness supports long-term growth and resilience. Mental strength is closely connected to self-trust. You begin trusting your ability to handle discomfort, uncertainty, and emotional challenges. This trust reduces fear about the future. Confidence grows from lived experience, not forced positive thinking. Long-term strength also changes how you relate to stress. Stressful situations still appear, but they no longer control your inner reactions. You remain present instead of becoming overwhelmed by pressure. This presence protects mental energy. Strong minds also understand the importance of rest. Rest is not weakness, but an essential part of recovery and balance. Without rest, mental strength slowly fades. With proper rest, clarity returns naturally. Another key part of mental strength is emotional honesty. You stop pretending to feel fine when you are not. Honesty reduces inattention and confusion. The mind feels lighter when it does not hide from itself. Over time, long-term strength reshapes how you see yourself. You stop defining your identity by moods, setbacks, or circumstances. Stability becomes part of who you are internally. This identity creates lasting calm. As Chapter 10 continues, remember that mental strength is built slowly and quietly. You are not becoming stronger through pressure, but through understanding and patience. Each calm response adds depth to your inner stability. This strength prepares you for lasting clarity, confidence, and peace. Long-term mental strength becomes most visible when life feels uncertain or emotionally challenging. Instead of collapsing under pressure, the mind learns to remain steady and observant. You may still feel emotions, but they no longer control your direction or decisions. This steadiness allows you to move forward with clarity rather than fear. A strong mind does not rush to escape discomfort when it appears. It understands that discomfort is part of growth, learning, and emotional maturity. By staying present during difficult moments, the mind builds quiet confidence. This confidence grows from experience, not from avoidance or denial. Over time, mental strength creates emotional independence within you. You no longer rely heavily on external approval to feel stable or worthy. Your sense of balance comes from within rather than from changing circumstances. This inner stability feels grounding and deeply secure. Long-term strength also changes how you view failure and mistakes. Failure stops feeling like a personal judgment or a final outcome. Instead, it becomes feedback, experience, and information. This shift removes fear from trying again. A strong mind learns to live with uncertainty without constant worry. You accept that not everything needs immediate answers or solutions. Trust slowly replaces overthinking and mental pressure. Peace grows in the space where control is released. Mental strength also improves how you handle success. Success no longer creates pressure to maintain perfection or fear of loss. You remain balanced instead of anxious about keeping progress intact. This balance protects long-term emotional well-being. With strength comes emotional maturity and patience. You respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively to situations. Words and actions become calmer, clearer, and more intentional. Relationships benefit from this emotional steadiness. A strong mind also learns to respect its own limits. It knows when to pause, rest, and reset without guilt. Rest is seen as wisdom, not weakness. This self-respect keeps the mind healthy and sustainable. Over time, mental strength becomes your natural inner state. You stop forcing calm and begin living from it. Life feels lighter even when challenges appear. This ease comes from deep inner alignment. As this audiobook comes to an end, remember that building a stronger mind is a lifelong journey, not a destination. You have learned to observe, accept, and respond with awareness and patience. Each step has quietly strengthened your inner foundation. From this place, clarity, calm, and resilience will continue to grow.